Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Caines, and Ed Mann.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Three Devs and a Maybe, the first episode of 2017. And today we are joined by my accomplished, see, Mickey's always good at saying these things, but a very, very good friend of mine and dear podcast host, Mr. Lewis Caines. How are we doing, Lou?
That couldn't have gone any worse for you, could it?
I know, that everything went wrong there, but I'm going to keep that in because that one, I think, the audience needs to know that Ed screws up a lot,
You are human.
Everyone's human.
Yeah.
Oh, man. How you doing, Luke? It's
good.
been ages. I don't know. I haven't looked through the podcast history to see when the last time you were on, but I'm pretty sure it was I think it was episode 100.
I think it was August 1998, wasn't it?
Oh, good year. Good year, good month.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know it has been a little while, but life has been busy and things tick by, and it's just not always been possible to get on. But you've, as per usual, done a sterling job of keeping it going and getting various people on. And I gather you had a bit of a mishap with Joe the other week. Care to fill us in on what happened there?
Well, no. So, I mean, the audience does know, but it's great to shame me again. So I went for a recording, and Joe was like, "Your audio sounds weird," and I was thinking, and we both kind of thought, "Oh no, maybe it's just his headphones," because he doesn't normally use headphones. It turned out it wasn't his headphones, and it was indeed me sounding like a robot. It was a very weird thing, and well, now what we've done, and I've done like 4 recordings before this, a couple on my own just to make sure my audio's set up all right, and one with you, just to make sure we just have a pre-recording, just a couple of seconds or so of us just talking to make sure I don't sound like a robot like this. I know it was weird actually. It sounded like I was like really deep voice. It didn't sound like me. So that's what happened then. But this time, hopefully this will be coming in clear HD goodness.
Yeah, and we're using some new technology here, I see.
I know, yeah, exactly, yeah. The Zencaster stuff, it's. I think this is going to be it's just a great tool. I mean, it's already saved us a ball ache of having to like set up Skype, get our Audio Hijack Pro, and all this stuff. So, no, it's going to be awesome.
It's always nice when there's a nice little online service that you can just use there rather than having to download all the bits and bobs.
That's it, and it's one of those problems where more people are doing podcasts, and I'm really happy about that. Like, the more podcasts, the better, because, if we can start one, anyone can start one, I feel.
I feel massively out of the loop with doing these. I know that it's been ages since I've been on one, and it's a bit crazy. I looked at you did a great job of redesigning our website, by the way. I had a look.
Oh, thank you. And that was a massive hack job from me, from my own site. And then I must thank Paul, which is from MDO. I can't remember his actual real name, but that's his Twitter handle.
That was his one opportunity to be famous. You can't even remember his name.
I will put it in the show notes though. Yeah. But he's famous beyond just being now. But yeah, he did some great Jekyll kind of like initial simple designs.
Oh, that's a blog platform, isn't it?
So that's what we use actually. So we just use Jekyll, the blog platform, and then we host just on a DigitalOcean setup box at the moment.
I know. I know this. You don't have to tell me this. This is last. I didn't know that at all. Ed doesn't get enough credit. To all these people listening, Ed is the driving force behind this podcast. And
I'm the guy who has no life, who just likes to talk to people.
That's not necessarily true. Sorry, that sounds really not necessarily. That's not I meant to say. That's
not necessarily true. It's partially true. Like, you can kind of look at it. It's kind of, definitely true.
You have a very busy life these days. You've bought a new place.
I know. Well, it's true, actually. And thank you again for the welcoming present. And again, but did we go to Cyprus? Yeah, we did go to Cyprus before the episode 100, I think.
No, I haven't been on this show for donkey's years.
Oh, well, right, yeah. Well, again, thank you for Cyprus. That was an amazing time. Oh, God, that was
back
great.
In September, yeah.
I know, that does feel like yonks away, go now.
Yeah, me.
And thank you for the welcoming.
Lady went to Cyprus.
Yeah, and thank you for the present, the welcoming present, and thank you for the card, for the Christmas card and the welcoming card and everything. And did you have how I suppose, how are things going your end, Lucy? You said you've been busy. Is that busy in life as well as in programming? What's been going on?
Busy in life, busy in programming. Yeah, I guess so. So when I'm going to make a random guess and say I was probably on here in about July. I would have thought. Sorry, hiccup then right in the middle of speaking. So middle of July-ish, and that was right in the middle of probably one of my busiest spells ever. putting together this Jeremy James website, which I talked about, which uses the Vibra and Rightmove and Zoopla APIs. So that was a big project that took up most of my summer and knackered me out, to be honest. It was one of those full-on projects. It seemed like it was never going to be done.
There were so many moving parts there, weren't there?
Yeah, there were a lot of moving parts, and the process since launch hasn't been smooth either. But the site, it's been all right. The site itself has stood up fine, and all the functionality that I built has has been fine. Haven't had any issues at all actually since we launched, which was good. So, but yeah, I mean, that dominated my summer pretty much. I didn't even get out on the golf course as much as I'd like to, and that's not good.
See, that's when you know Lou's busy. If you can't make time for golf, there really is gonna, there's an imbalance in Lou's life.
There is a severe imbalance in life. So yeah, that basically took us through, and then I think you guys came up. That was probably around my birthday to see the new place.
Oh yes, I really enjoyed it.
And then a little holiday rolled around. Went off to Cyprus for 2 weeks. That was very, very well. What's the word? Well received? I don't know.
Well received, yeah. Your body and mind well received. It was well received for my body and mind.
It was well had. It was a holiday well had. Probably the hottest I've ever known it be out there, wasn't it? God,
it was lovely.
Baking. Yeah, it was perfect. So yeah, the four of us had a good, nice little week away. Well, we were there for 2 weeks actually. And then basically literally the day that we got back from holiday, we went off to pick up our new little puppy, Blue. So. And life since then has pretty much been all about him.
It's been Blue. It hasn't been Blue. That sounds bad. It hasn't been
Blue, not at all.
It hasn't been Blue. It's been the opposite of Blue. No, but his name is Blue.
It's been brilliant. We've never had a dog before. We always wanted one, and just decided. Thankfully there was a breeder that lives probably only about half an hour away from us that just posted on Gumtree one day. My missus loves Gumtree. She's on there all day, every day. And quite often we're going out driving bits and bobs that she's picked up. So she saw this advert for a lady that was breeding golden retriever puppies, which I didn't realise are massively sought after and very rare. So
yes, they are. Well, they are the dog. I think they're like the typical. They're the most popular dog, aren't they?
Yeah,
I would say so. Probably because they are kind of like the most ubiquitous. You know that a dog looks like a golden retriever kind of family dog.
Yeah, they
not belittling any other dogs. I'm not saying like other dogs are bad. I'm just saying that they are probably the
other dogs are available.
Other dogs.
If we were the BBC, we'd have to say that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would. Available in other shapes and sizes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there was a litter of 6, and I think there were people coming from all the way, like from Yorkshire.
That's mental.
Places for the others. So we were just basically had to make a spur of the moment decision. Like, are we going for it? This is probably as good a chance as we'll get. And
you've just got the new place, bigger place. You've got enough space for the dog. You might as well. Yeah.
I'm now working remotely, so I can be around for the dog. So yeah, we went for it, and then literally the day that we got back from Cyprus was the day that we picked him up. Although that happened a day earlier than it was supposed to, but that's fine. We were just a bit more tired and unprepared than we would have been given the extra night's sleep. But yeah, so since then it's been a constant routine of puppy walking, puppy training, going to classes, but getting him to stop chewing things. Although he's been actually really, really good like that, and just getting to know the little guy really, and getting him so settled in. And there's lots of pictures on my Facebook page. I don't think I've actually tweeted any out. Maybe I need to do that.
I think you definitely need one picture at least, just so the audience can see how freaking cute this dog is.
Yeah, he's great. He's a very, very lovely natured dog. We're very lucky, and it's been a massive change of pace getting him, because obviously it was just the two of us before, so we could go out and do whatever we wanted whenever we wanted. So probably not quite the same as having a human child, but there's a lot.
I think it's on par. I mean, I think you're now looking after another being, aren't you? Another living thing. I think relies on you.
That's probably something that Mike hasn't discussed, apart from the fact that he's doing his degree and got a baby and has about 5 minutes a day to himself or whatever. He's also got a dog. So
yeah, he got landed with a dog, bless him.
He doesn't talk about that one much, but yeah. So
the Skype call we had with you when we first got the place, like Blue is he is just stupidly cute, and like the puppy training and everything must be interesting. I mean, so how have you found kind of like, I mean, obviously there's another part of this, it's work side, the boring side, but how's work been for you, like since kind of the Jeremy James stuff went live, and what have you been working on?
It's been settled down quite a lot actually, which has been quite nice. I've had the opportunity to try and get back to learning some new bits and bobs. So I got Adam Wadden's Laravel testing course that he brought out. Hi Adam, I know you're going to be listening. If you are, you were then high. I probably won't be, will he?
We'll definitely be listening to his podcast. Full Stack is definitely on the list.
I
It's
do
so
always
good.
listen to that, and he does a great job with that. But the bit I've only got, I think, 2 modules into his course so far, but it's fantastic, and it's really got me thinking about test-driven development properly. It's not something that I'd used a massive amount before, but to be honest, most of the test-driven development I've been doing was just to mess around with services and making HTTP calls and all that stuff. But
I think he's really found a niche that works so well, like trying to tackle that, one of the hardest problems of getting people to do TDD. And it's on my radar to look at next, like to buy that, because I really love what he's done. Like he's gone from, working for a company, I think he was working remote last year, to now he's set up his own kind of business and things, and he's now doing these bits, and it's, he did his book, and now he's done his screencasts and stuff, and his podcast is just going straight to strength. And he really is just, it's great stuff he's been pumping out, and it'd be really cool to try and get him back on the show, see if he's interested in coming on our little show again.
Yeah, I think what him and Jeffrey Wade done is brilliant. They've shown that you can set something up for yourself and do well out of it.
That's it, and learning resources and stuff where, typically you'll see like the big ones where it's like, the O'Reillys or the Addison Wesleys or whatever. You need to have these big contracts with people, or, like you have to be a name beforehand or have a great idea. You really can just do it yourself. You can just get LeanPub set up, have an idea, start writing it, see if people like it and stuff. And he released like a really interesting, it's another one with the guy, Ian Landsman. He's done 2 podcasts with him, like who's from Userscape, I think it is. It's
used to work for him, didn't he? Or still does.
That's it. I think he did. Yeah, he used to work for him, and like he was talking a lot about the business side and stuff, and like it's just so interesting. Like I'll put those in the show notes, those podcasts, because I listened to those at least a couple of times. They really are interesting, kind of like looking at more of the soft skills and kind of like the other side of programming, kind of the idea of like trying to make a product, and it's really interesting.
Well, it is interesting because I think in a lot of ways that's where the money to be made out of web seems to be now. It's quite an interesting comparison. I mean, like web agencies that just literally code up websites from start to finish and then, provide maybe a bit of maintenance and everything, and they have to quote for design and then build and everything, just doesn't seem to be as lucrative as it should be. It's like the client doesn't really understand everything that's going into it. Whereas if you build a product like that people are going to like and is going to be popular, it seems to be such a better way of trying to generate money. I mean, like you guys, you work for a product, don't you? Basically. Yeah. So
that's it. I think it's such a different vibe working on a product, and I love it. Like, I think there's always that kind of people will say, well, doesn't it get boring? And it's like, no, because when you work for a product and you understand what a product is, there's so many things that just are constantly changing. It's never done. It's never like just shipped and released and we're like, yep, we've done that product. Let's go. It's not the same vibe as you get in an agency where, as you say, it's like build a brochure website or build a simple e-commerce website for someone. It's a product. It's a very different being, and it has its own kind of life.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I work for a company that designs and makes websites and churns out X amount of them over the year, but it just doesn't seem to be that people want to pay the money that they should be for them. It's really strange.
Have you thought about have you thought as a company maybe like looking into kind of product development, any ideas, kind of trying to, doing some kind of dev work in that regard and investing a little bit of time in some products? Yeah,
it's been discussed. It's obviously trying to find the niche, isn't it? Trying to find what's not been done yet. And I've got some ideas myself for things that I wanted to start thinking about. It's something I'd love to do. It'd be a lot of work.
But no, I mean, I completely agree with you though that, products are different. There's the pros and cons of both. If you're interested in kind of quick REPL loops, quick feedback loops, quick kind of in and out, ship it, start a new product, start a new, tech stack maybe you want to use, you want to try Node for this, you want to try Python for this, you want to try Ruby for this, you want to try Scala, you want Clojure, it's great where you can just do simple brochure stuff where it's, or, it's kind of, I say, I don't mean it to like as simple as in like the word. It sounds hard actually, because when I say simple, I don't mean like it's simple to do. Like some of the things that you actually end up having to do, and this is what the problem the client doesn't understand, I don't think, is very complex or very, taxing and stuff. But kind of like the scope is very simple of what they want, but they may want certain little bits that are, different and stuff. And obviously those are the little bits that add-ons that turn into it becoming its own beast.
And they prefix that with, I assume it wouldn't be too difficult to just do that.
Yeah, there we go. And then you get the silly Billy tax. And then that's when you get that lovely mug.
Yeah, silly Billy tax. Need a refund.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
Man.
actually, we are sort of going down the product road at the moment now. I've inherited this data room product that my company's been working on. It's not actually something that I built initially, but because at the time that they needed it, I had a load of other projects on the go, so they outsourced it to another local web company. But now it's kind of been built, or more or less built. They want it back in house, so obviously to save money. So I've kind of re-inherited this code base.
How have you found that?
Yeah, it's not been too bad. It's kind of built on three parts. I mean, the product itself, it's called the data room, or the data 6 is the actual name, and it's dead simple. It's because a lot of our clients are property based. It's just a secure area where they can upload their files and PDFs and documents and everything, and just sort them into folders and things like that. And it's got a user management feature as well, so they can decide who can access files, who can access the data room, who can download, who can add files, add new users, and various bits like that. And it can send batch emails out to clients and things. So it's
see that's interesting. Something like that, right? So it's very much kind of like an idea that's been done in many areas, but you've got a niche that you want to put it in. You've got your little spin on it, and you're able then to, obviously brand it and do it for your specific audience. And that's something that could sell, because that's what one of the Ian Landsman podcasts was about, like with Adam Wathan, was, like the idea that it doesn't have to be a revolutionary idea or design or something. It just has to be something that one niche will cater for. You're catering for a certain niche in a certain way. Maybe the fact that your sales emails is such an important thing, or maybe the fact that you've got this user management that these people understand is such an important thing.
I think the keyword niche here is, it's simplicity. I think if you can do something, even if it's the same as something that's been done before, but make it simpler, easier and quicker, then, I think
sell.
It's going to sell. You would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, that's what this does. I mean, we've looked at a load of other similar products, and they're just so chunky and bloated. I nearly got those words combined. Choted.
I like it.
Blunky.
I like that.
Blunky. And but yeah, I mean, that's why, as I'm sure we'll come on to in a minute, I've been learning Vue a lot and using Vue a lot alongside, and been implementing a lot of it into that, just to try and make the whole UI really nice and clean and fast, and using a lot of key down events just to make things quicker and bits.
That's cool.
Like that. So yeah, it's really cool.
It's more like pro user kind of functionality that allow them to get things done quicker.
Yeah, but this whole thing, it's built in three parts. So it's got the actual API element, which they've built using Yi, which I don't really know an awful lot about, and from what I've seen a lot of Yi code, and I just don't like the look of it. This isn't a criticism to the developers at all. It's just I don't like the look of Yi
way your
code.
brain works. Yeah,
it's all this it's like this static property, this Yi static property, and then preceded by whatever else. And I don't know. It's just when you get used to working with Laravel, you can see certain bits in comparison to Yi that are just way less code. And I don't know if that's the framework or it's just the code base I'm working with, but I don't know. It's a valid criticism for that code base, like you say. Maybe that is the way they've done it. I mean, as you say, so it's not ideal code, it's legacy code in your kind of head, where it's foreign legacy code that you haven't seen before, you haven't touched, and now you're having to maintain it. Have you looked at Yi at all?
I've never, sadly, no, I haven't had that lovely experience.
I think one of the strengths, I think you get quite a lot out of the box with it. I think you a bit like Taylor's introduced into the more recent Laravel versions, where you can scaffold out all your whole user login functionality and registration stuff. I think you can do all of that with it, which is cool. And I think it just comes with a load of like widgets and things like that, which are quite useful probably, but I've not used them, so I can't really elaborate much more on that. But yeah, they use that for the REST API, which so far is, from what I can see, works absolutely fine. So I haven't got to do anything with that, I don't think, which is good. I can leave all the Yi code alone.
But that is a great thing. That's a good separation there. Exactly. To be able to then control your efforts on one thing. Yeah,
precisely. And the second bit is there's like the admin panel, which is more of the front end. It's built on Yi as well, but I don't know if I'll have to mess around with that. That seems to be working fine as well. But you create all the data rooms as a subdomain. So you just go in and you can configure all your settings and things in there. And then the actual front end code for the data room itself, which isn't in any PHP framework or anything. That's just that's where I've been working on the most. There's been a lot of refactoring that I've been doing on there because it was quite nice actually. It was the first time in ages that I've seen proper like raw PHP procedural code. You
What does it make you feel? You're like, oh, look at it. I mean, it is simple, isn't it? I suppose, well, it depends on who wrote it, but
oh yeah, it was absolutely fine. There was a tiny little bit of OOP in there, just maybe one or two classes, but way too many, way too much logic in the actual. Well, they're not view files, just in the actual PHP
presentation layer of it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So my first step was to basically go right back through that and just basically try and refactor and get logic out of there as much as possible. And to be honest, I absolutely love doing that. Refactoring seems to be one of my favourite things. That sounds weird, doesn't it? But
well, no, because it's a very fulfilling task, isn't it? Being able to see something, that you saw at the beginning. You're able to look at like a Git report, like a pull request, and be like, look what it was, and now look what it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it provides the same functionality, but it's written in a more clearer way. I know that Taylor Otway has been going on Twitter, like how he's been reading through all the source of Laravel. Slowly going through bits and upgrading bits and, refactoring bits and stuff. So, even in the framework layer, like all layers, it's great to go through code and kind of, look back at it. And especially if you don't understand the code, it's different code to, it's new code to you.
Yeah, I mean, being procedural code, a lot of it uses like a lot of curl requests and stuff like that for the HTTP calls. And again, it sounds awful, but I've not massively used that. I always use Guzzle or things like that. Which are obviously written on top of those.
Yeah.
So just
it's good. I mean, it's good to kind of go to the root layer and see what's going on. I mean, these abstractions we have, sometimes you do just pick up an abstraction and you never understand and learn the underlying thing because people tell you, no, don't use it. But actually, it's good sometimes to do that, is to go and look and see what's happening, especially in this case where you actually have to go and understand it. And if you're going to bring in abstractions, you're going to have to understand how it was done beforehand to work out what you need to do, in the future.
Exactly.
Or
and bits like that, I haven't actually. I chose to not rewrite those because I thought, it's good to have those as a reference should I need it for anything else going down the line. And it's obviously code that works as well, so I don't want to tinker with it too much. If it's working, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's not that the code itself was written messily. It was just wasn't in the best place it could be, so I just put it in a class and stuff like that. So just general tidying it up because obviously I've got to be maintaining this thing going forward. So it's in my interest to make it as understandable to me as possible.
Yeah, it's picking your battles when refactoring because the trouble is you could just say, oh no, forget it completely. No, I want to rewrite from scratch. But for the client, for your boss, and for you, is that the most good? Is that the most relevant thing to do with your time? Like, is it the most effective thing to do with your time?
I fall into this trap so often, and I'm trying to think what I heard the other day. I think it might have even been at the start of like the opening video of Adam Wallen's testing Laravel video. It's just basically the whole crux of it was like focus on like the most important bits first. Does it actually need to be done like this? Is there an actual reason that time needs to be spent building this feature, or is there a way that I can simplify the process? And in my case, no, I don't need to rebuild that, so I may as well not spend any time on it.
There you go.
You know what I mean? It's
the most effective time is the time you don't spend. And that's growing as like a developer, is understanding that.
Yeah, precisely. So
and it's kind of sucking in, saying, well, it's not priority to refactor this. If I had time, I'd do it. If I'd change it, or I'd completely rewrite it. But sometimes it's maintaining stuff that's already there.
Yeah, and
slowly building up and refactoring while you're there. That's why it's good having test cases, and even if you do your own coverage as well, you're able then to refactor parts. Even if end-to-end test, it just allows you to refactor the bit in the middle. And slowly, obviously, you're going to, this is the great thing about his course. I'm sure it goes into all these really interesting things.
It's a brilliant course. There's a couple of things that I've kind of encountered along the way, which one of them I'm still not sure what to do with it. Basically you can visit a page on a website and you can mock filling in a form and stuff like that. What I've got is I'm using a test database alongside, or in some cases I use a test database. I'm actually, as part of his course, using an in-memory database, which is something I hadn't done before, but that saves a lot of time with the testing. But if I go into a page and fill out the form during the test and then submit the form, that still populates the actual database and not the test one. I haven't figured out how to make it populate the test database, because if obviously if you're doing an insert from within your test or something like that. You're obviously using your test database. But if you're
So
interacting,
you need to make sure that you've stubbed out and you've using the right dependency in the web application as well. Then
yeah, it could be.
And the
Yeah,
setup of it.
yeah. I mean, that's probably something that we'll get onto with it. But that's one of the things that I've come across, and I'm just trying to think what else. Just the whole workflow of actually like wireframing pages to make sure the output on the page is as you expect it, and then even before you put in all the HTML and CSS, you just literally like having a page that you can visit on the website that will just read all the information out there, and to make it display that it like it should be. I'm stuttering a lot today. I'm rusty. I'm podcast rusty.
No, you're fine, man. You're doing fine.
I'm so paranoid about doing these things. I always think I sound stupid. But
No, you don't. You sound fine. I think the trouble is because you haven't done it in so while. This is the problem. You see, it kind of like makes it a bigger thing than it is.
It's quite when you don't come from a web background. It's like it's not what I've been doing my whole life. It's whenever I talk about this stuff, I always think the whole time, is what I'm talking about making any sense at all?
Yeah, but then someone will mention it. You see, this is the idea, and this is what it's great with having audience participation, is they'll say, oh, no, by the way, that was maybe not right, or something. You learn.
Yeah.
That's how I think, I'm sure stuff, I mean, I listened back to stuff I spoke about a couple of weeks, like last episode. I'm like, oh, God, did I really say that? But you feel, no, at that time I thought that, I said that, and that's what it is. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I try not to be pretentious with web because it's very, very easy to come across that way, isn't it? And try and sound like you're talking a better game than you actually know. And I definitely try and avoid that. It's interesting, actually. There was I've seen some tweets from like Taylor Otwell where he's been saying recently how he's been contacting people to find out more about their product. I can't even remember what it was, but he basically, from their point of view, it didn't sound like they even knew their own code. So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's great. I mean, it is all about balance, a personal balance within yourself of like, and I think we all constantly go through the imposter syndrome, and we all constantly, battle this kind of, am I doing it right? Am I saying it right? Am I thinking it right? Oh, I suck. I'm all right. I'm confident. I'm not all confident. And you just have to kind of roll with it, and you just keep on learning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of like learning resources and learning materials and things and podcasts in general is like keep on learning.
Exactly. This has been very me heavy so far. We haven't talked about how things are going your end. How are you?
I mean, I gab on each week, so don't worry about that, dude. But yeah, things are going fine, man. Like Christmas went well. We did. So not only did we buy the house, we also then stupidly, I think we signed ourselves up for doing Christmas Day food and stuff, the Christmas meal, and for Amy's family, and it went well.
Are you a renowned chef or not?
Yeah, man. Of course I. No, I'm not that great. I know how to do enough. Me and Amy both did it. It was great, actually. It was quite fun doing it. We did a gammon, we did a turkey, we did all the bits and bobs you need. And it's all about timing. Everything is just timing, isn't it? With like a big roast. I mean, it's essentially a big roast, and it's all about timing. But yeah, no, it went really well, and we're really quite proud of ourselves. So we're like, yeah, we did it, and it was kind of like it sounds weird, but that was more real about getting a house. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, wow, we do our own Christmas dinners now. It's just a real feeling. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, like house stuff's going well.
Yeah,
we're slowly but surely. There's still a load of there's still a load of boxes to unpack, and
same here. We've been here since March.
It will never end, will it? Yeah. And like the other thing is, Amy's mum, bless her, she's still saying, "Well, Amy, you do have some stuff at our house that you need to come and collect." So once we've got rid of these boxes, we know there's going to be more to come. But slowly but surely, we got the heating done, which was a result, which is always good. And we're going to be doing decorating of the bathroom. That's the first thing that needs doing. They didn't do the best of jobs, the previous people here. So that's what our first kind of like. Yeah, I think I'm sure you're the same. Like you've got like a list of the priority of things that need to be done.
Yes.
Like, oh, right, this definitely needs to happen next. This could happen. Nice to haves and things. It's almost like a project. It is just like a product, like a coding product, like nice to haves, definitelys, and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, it is definitely that. But in our old house that we in Tunbridge Wells where we lived, I did a lot of the DIY work, which makes me sound like I'm a brilliant DIY person. I am terrible.
You're a handy man, sir.
Yeah. It took me 3 hours to put up a curtain rail once just because I couldn't get the thing level.
Sounds like it would be like me, mate. Yeah. Don't worry, that sounds like me.
Yeah, but now we're here. We're obviously this is a bit more permanent. So I don't think I should be doing any DIY here. Although
your talents are somewhere else. This is why you respect other people's skill sets.
Yeah.
And you get them to do the job. Absolutely.
It's just it's not something that I'm very good at. if I'm trying to hammer a nail in, I'll either hit my thumb or it will go out sideways, or bounce off something and then hit my wife in the head or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. How's your new office set up then?
The office setup as well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's all kind of, we're rocking the 3 monitors and everything. Got the vinyl player next to me, which is always a must-have, And last week, actually, so actually speaking about Christmas and stuff, I think you were off all Christmas, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you had a nice break. Good. I worked a couple of days last week,
right.
which was fine and stuff, but it was really interesting, actually. So the last couple of weeks, actually, I've been working on some... So at my builder, so we have kind of... when I first started, we kind of... Our process, and especially when you're talking about bringing in APIs, bringing in the fact of things like we're using npm and we're using like React stuff, so we have a lot of that stuff, local service for development and stuff, and then being able to upload all these different APIs to our dev servers and stuff. Things started to get a bit more complex. It went from just 2 simple Symfony 2 applications and also Symfony 1.1 to pretty much explosion of APIs and things like that as well. So what I did was I started creating the simple bash scripts, and it was one of those things where it's just a very trivial, a couple of functions that just do some bits for you, automate the processes, like, as a hacker does, like a developer does. And then that got a bit more complex, and it's grown and grown and grown. And really, we are kind of in our knowledge base. We have a GitHub repo, which is just our knowledge base with a load of like instructions and stuff about typical things, that need to be done, and kind of processes. But also we had this MB functions shell file, bash file, and essentially what it was like, copy this in, put it into here, source it, and just use it. And we'd be then like, update your source file. You're gonna need to update it now. All right, copy it and paste it. And it just so back in the olden days of like copy and pasting things from forums. Yeah. So I started looking actually at some Composer stuff and like automating it using Composer. But I think Gavin was right. Well, what we ended up doing was using Homebrew. So we all use Macs, and Homebrew, I think if you don't know what Homebrew is, it's essentially kind of like apt-get. It's kind of like a package manager for Mac. So it allows you to install, like all your packages and stuff, like install, like, say, I want PHP on here, and you could use casks as well, which is like, I want to install Google Chrome. And it just allows you to set up an environment without having to install DMGs and, making compiling software yourself.
It's all command line based and super quick.
That's it, exactly. So what we did was we made our own tap. So they're all done by taps. So we made our own Homebrew tap, and what we've done is I refactored a lot of all these shell scripts and stuff from these functions, and we moved them into a repository, and we're now able to just do an MB tap update essentially that updates and pulls down the latest version. So now we have this automated process where people who need the development tools can just do update, and it will provide them with the latest and greatest. Another thing we actually did also was there's a thing called this brew bundle. And it's a brew file, and what it allows you to do is essentially take a snapshot of these are the currently installed packages on my machine. So what we did was we created this brew file for my builder development environments that says, look, you want to install all this stuff. You're going to want to have PHP, you're going to want to have PHP Storm, you're going to want all these things installed, like Xcode and stuff. And essentially what I've done is I've incorporated that into the MB tap update. And all it does is it makes sure that you've got the latest, you've got these installed on your machine. Oh, wow. So in theory, it makes it much easier to set up a new machine and also keep an existing machine up to date with what needs to be done.
So this is to install things globally as opposed to just in the project.
That's it. Yeah. So this is like the brew file is for your whole global machine, so or like your user essentially saying like this user needs to have Google Chrome, all these browsers installed, and make sure and assert that this is the case. And it's been working really well actually. And the functions, I mean, we did kind of go back and forth. I was thinking maybe we could use PHP for the functions, but keeping it just as a bash it's very simple. They're very trivial. They're kind of like very small little files that are just the functions themselves, and it seems to be working okay. And I really do love the concept of having brew taps, like having your own tap that allows you, and your own kind of formulas that you can then use to set up your own environments, and it's worked really well.
The code for that, is that still just bash scripts, or is that
just bog standard bash scripts? I've done there's a couple of things I'd like to put in a blog post that are kind of like little abstractions, little functions that I've done, like help make it easier to do like because the concept of like what we had was we had a lot of like Composer installs and a lot of upload these and set these up and stuff and add a lot of output, but really we only ever want to display the output if there was an error. So I kind of encapsulated that, and you've got this concept of running, and you can run it in like verbose mode, which will give you what the function's actually that's running and also its output. But other than that, what it will do is it will just say, oh yeah, I'm running this, and it will only output, say, like error or success, and then you can obviously go into verbose mode after that. And that's the beauty of like having good status exit codes in like bash files and all these commands, is then if something's occurred.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually. So are you still using like a package.json to bring in stuff locally, or?
Oh yeah, so sorry, yeah. So this is just for like the development machine.
Yeah, literally just for the working environment.
That's it, yeah. So because of the working environment, because we've got so many different things now, and the repository, because we've got 2 repositories. So we've got the main one, which is a big monolith, but really it's not, because it's got lots of sub-composer packages and stuff. And then we've got an admin, a Symfony 1 kind of partial admin. So we've got 2 repositories, and it's really kind of trying to orchestrate and keep those up to date and setting them up properly and stuff, and uploading to development servers and things. And it's funny when these processes get more and more complex, you slowly build on them. And it was like this functions file was very small at first that I had, and then we gave it, we shared it around, and then it turned into, no, we're probably gonna have to invest a little bit of time in making this more of an automated, better process for updating and things like that, because I think it was valuable time well spent.
So would you go a further step along down the road of that at some point, and maybe try and incorporate that into a whole virtual machine? Or
I'm not really sure. I think at the moment, because we're all on Macs and we don't have to worry too much about that, like we can all kind of, it's very nice that it's all just a brew file. It's just brew, It's homebrew and stuff. And I think we're quite lucky there. And we just need to make sure we've got all these versions installed and stuff. And as we've got development servers and stuff that, have their own PHP versions, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But no, it's been really interesting. And actually one thing...
Cool.
Yeah, one thing actually that was related to that, which I had to do an update yesterday, and this is the great thing. It's like, oh crap, yeah, we need to make sure that everyone has this. It's like, oh yeah, I could just add it to the brew file. Everyone does brew MB tap update. It updates it, installs it. So have you ever heard of Genie Motion?
No.
So Android testing. So one thing I had to do yesterday was, or last week a bit, and then finished up yesterday, was update our lazy load implementation, our lazy load image implementation. Mm-hmm. And essentially lazy load images is like, so you want to load up the page, and then once the page has been loaded, then you can load in these images. There's many of them online.
Down. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. There's many online. Like if it's opened on, Viewscape, Viewport, only load it when I can see it. But we just wanted a very small trivial one that worked just with, vanilla JavaScript that tailored for our needs. It needed to handle both just images and also background images and divs, because in some cases it's easier to do those. So I implemented that, and also we needed to fix our page ready implementation. So it turned out that actually in IE10, page ready, the one we were using, it was firing too soon. There was a couple of bugs, and I was like, this is really weird. And then I realized actually it was the implementation, and you had to use this do scroll hack thing to make sure that you're, are you using, it's annoying. Again, it's one of these IE problems. But anyway, so
wasn't IE supposed to be fixed by the time it got to 10?
Man. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? It's these little quirks. But anyway, so I had to go through, and I formatted my hard drive, and I started again over the new year, and I had to set up my virtual machines again. So I had to set up, the Microsoft ones, and they've really done a good job there. I can't really knock Microsoft now.
I've got all of those.
That's it. You can for freely, just download a VirtualBox for Mac that has, IE10, IE11 and Edge and stuff. So you can do development very easy there. And also, I'm lucky, we're all iOS developers, and we've got our Macs, so we can easily do iOS testing, simulator stuff. But the one problem is I don't have an Android device. And Android obviously is a big market share, and you need to test on Android and Chrome and stuff. So I use Genie Motion for that. You can download and install the whole Android Studio, I think, and stuff, and do it that way with the emulator. But I found Genie Motion. I'm sure we spoke about it ages ago, but it's probably one of the best. You can, just put it in, set it up, and then what it allows you to do is it allows you to just simulate, certain specs of Android devices and stuff at certain versions. But one thing I did have a problem with was that it didn't. So the full, the installed Android version that they actually give you doesn't have Chrome on it. So it will use their stock Android browser, but no one uses that. No one uses the stock Android browser. And I think they've actually removed it since Android 6 or something. So what I was looking at is trying to install Chrome on it. And it turns out it was a bit of a pain. So I ended up, but it was a bit of a pain searching for it. But now once you know how to do it, it was quite easy. And it was using APK Mirror. So I don't know how legit this is, but essentially you can use a website that would download APKs that are compiled for the x86 architecture for your computer. And then you're able to actually use Chrome on, the Genie motion and actually do just testing.
Yeah.
Because that's all you want to do is I don't want to use Windows. I just want to make sure, does it work all right on IE? And I don't want to use an Android device on my computer. I just want to make sure, does it work all right in Chrome? And, it's these things where you have to test on these like real devices, and simulators may even not be perfect, but at least they give you...
Find that the like the iPad simulator that you can get either in when you open up the inspector in Chrome or anything like that, I find often that it's nothing like how it looks on an actual iPad.
So that's interesting, and that's where maybe real hardware devices is still a win, because you need to know and see what's really on real concrete hardware.
Yeah.
How is the touch events really going to work on the device and things?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the actual functionality itself isn't going to be exactly replicated, is it? So
that's it. But I mean, the next best thing is these things, and for
it gives you a chance, doesn't it?
That's it. It gives you a chance, and so that's one thing I did, and that was another thing actually. Like kind of an interesting thing that I had to do over the last couple of weeks. And finally, actually, one last little thing, a little tangent, is a really interesting JavaScript Jabber podcast. I tweeted about it during the week, and it was to do with Immutable.js, and it's guy Lee Bryan. He works for Facebook, but he talks about Immutable.js and Immutable.js, like, and how beautiful it is, and the benefits for both. While performance gains, while it's better to, obviously it's more performant to use mutable structures. Immutable structure, gives you and the developer a lot easier time and allows you to figure out certain things, such as like, has something updated very quickly, and things using like React and Vue layers and stuff, UI layers, really value for that. Have value in that. And he did a podcast with them about Immutable.js, but he also went on a bit of a tangent about like how functional programming, imperative programming languages, how they became, like talking about all these weird things like lambda calculus and stuff. And it was really interesting. So I really recommend checking out that that podcast.
Which one is it? Oh, sorry, this is, I'm just looking at my laptop. What's it called?
This is a JavaScript Jabber podcast. So actually, what I can do with the beauty of our friends Zencaster, boom, there you go, it's in the chat. So I'll put this in the show notes. Immutable.js. Immutable.js essentially is a library that implements a data structure, persistent immutable data structure that was in Clojure. It's a log32 based, log32 based. It's can't remember exactly what it's called. But it's a certain data structure that was made like in early 2000s that is very performant. It's not as performant as a mutable data structure, but it provides you the good characteristics of a persistent data structure, an immutable data structure, which allows you to do better checks and quicker checks and stuff.
Cool.
And I really recommend it. And also the API around Immutable.js is great, like for just simple operations and stuff. So, it kind of provides you with a nice user programmer interface, as well as the fact that you get these good characteristics out of it. And that is it for me. Like, kind of those are the bits that I've been up to and stuff. And yeah, have you got anything else, Lee, that you'd like to kind of share on the pod?
I don't think so. Only that I've been using Vue a lot, and I really like it, and I recommend that people use it. Definitely.
Can I ask what resources and stuff you've been using to look into Vue? Because Vue's like a big hot thing at the moment, isn't it? Like, it's gained a lot of traction.
The actual Vue documentation is absolutely brilliant. You can literally just go straight there and just work through that and get up to date and on your way very, very quickly. Or actually, I think it's Vuecast.com. Jeffrey Ways has got all his content on there. It's free. So
really? Wow.
All of those, and they are perfect. They are brilliant.
Oh, that's brilliant. And can I ask, like, so Vue takes kind of like, it's a replacement, or not replacement, but kind of a different approach to what you would do with something like React or Angular?
I think ultimately it's achieving the same thing in a lot of ways, but for me it's just I like the syntax a lot more.
Clicks better. Well, that's cool.
It's a lot more intuitive for me. There are little things with React that I wasn't too keen on, and just little things with Vue that I've just found a lot easier, like the whole management of state issues and stuff like that. Like in React, you have to keep calling, this.set state everywhere to update everything.
Yeah.
Whereas with Vue, you just basically set all your properties when you start, and then as they change throughout.
So it's got the two-way binding and
yes.
stuff. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, this is the thing. Like, if it works for you and it works for the scope that you're, handling and needing to handle, then great stuff, man.
One really cool thing I like about it, and this is from going through that Vuecast course actually, is that if you basically you get your Vue instance, and then you can attach an instance of Vue to like your window object in JavaScript. So they just have like a window.event is like a new Vue instance, and then throughout there you can emit your events and listen for your events throughout all your components, so you don't have to keep passing them up and down all over the place. You can just literally listen in each individual component if you need to, and then act from there. Because that's one of the things like with React that I found frustrating, is that you have to keep cascading props down to somewhere where they're needed.
Yeah, and you have to use context. Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, you can do that, and in a lot of cases you do need to do that with Vue, but it's not something that's essential. So you can just, from in one component, you can do, like, if you've attached window.event to a new instance of Vue, you could just do like event.emit new folder added, and then say in like wherever your folders are listed, you can listen for that and then act on it there. And then if there's a different part of your component, you can just have an event on new folder added function in there. That's probably a really, really hazy way of describing it.
No,
like I
that
say,
sounds cool.
I'm not very good at discussing these things, but yeah, that's one of the things I found most helpful. I found with React that it was very code heavy. I don't know if you'd agree with that. Sometimes do they call them components in React? It's been so long since I've used it now. All the reactants they get quite clunky, and you have to do component did update, and then check to see if something's changed, so you don't get an infinity loop and all that jazz that you.
That's where like something like immutable.js wins out as well, like with the presentation there, because if because obviously it's really hard to check, like, did this change? Did something actually change in this data structure without checking every individual part of that data structure? And the nice thing with like immutable data structures is like, it hasn't changed if it's the same exact thing. So you can do like a reference, like you can do a triple equals on it and just say, has this actually changed? It's like, oh, it hasn't changed. It's super quick. Change, like a super quick like operation to check that. But like you say, if you're using kind of the JavaScript way of mutations and stuff, you have to then use these things like components should update and going really heavy and detailed into kind of like really weird predicates.
Yeah, one of the other things that I think you'll like as well is you can create .vue files. Have you encountered them at all or heard about them?
No, what's that?
So it's brilliant actually. It just keeps all the logic for that thing in one particular file. So one of the main ways that you kind of handle all your kind of presentation code is you can enclose them within template tags. So all your HTML markup and declaring your values and everything in there. And so you'd have that at the top, and then you just have your have script tags underneath it where you declare your instance, and then use all your methods and your data and declare all your data and just basically interact with the component. And then underneath you can have style tags as well, so you can take care of all the CSS for that component within there as well. It's really, really clean, really nice.
That's a very nice modular way of looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the biggest wins for me, actually. So you obviously have to compile that down using, I think there's Vueify, and there's various things on there that you can use through Webpack or Browserify, whatever you use. But for working with this data room, that's basically been my workflow. I've got all these separate components, all these Vue files that are all separate and reusable. I find for some reason found the whole workflow of making things reusable much better with Vue. And
well, that's cool though. I mean, again, it's like there's so many different choices, and one will work with your problem you're trying to solve, the way you think, and the way your company works, and exactly. It's so many factors that take into consideration, and that's what the great thing is about having all these different choices. Is there may be like a little German of an idea that's the same in all of them, and they've all kind of expanded on them in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I recommend it.
It's brilliant. No, I'll put it in the show notes, and I definitely will check it out, because it does sound really interesting, and kind of like your exploration on it and stuff. How positive you've been, felt towards it. It's really interesting.
I even tweeted Evan New to say thanks for making this. It's made development fun again, because it really has.
Awesome.
I mean, like the first few times I was messing around with it, it was literally one of those cases where like I wonder if this will happen if I do this, like secretly hoping that it will. Like you say with
little developer wins. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like a lot of the bonuses with Laravel, quite often you don't even need to look at the documentation. You can just kind of intuitively.
That's a great design app. I mean,
so yeah. But no, other than that, that's it. I'm working on another project for a car scrap merchant that's involves working with the DVLA search API.
Ooh.
But
more external APIs, more third-party API goodness.
That seems to be a lot of what I'm doing at the moment, but that's fine. It's good to work with all these different things.
Definitely, see how they all work and everything.
Yeah, but I've still only got a demo key for that. The client needs to actually buy tokens to work with it before I can do any more with it. So I'm limited to to certain amounts of car number plates that I could work with at the moment. So,
well, that's their problem, sir.
but yeah, so over the next few weeks, I think I'll be working more on that and carrying on with this data room, getting it done, and and walking the dog, and I think that's pretty much it. But
it's almost like a daily thing, walking the dog, or else the dog gets quite annoyed.
He wants to go out every day. It's not fair.
Oh, I know. God, can't you make it like once a week or so? God, later, get lazy, dog.
Yeah, and he likes to sleep while we're working as well. So while we're keeping him in the life,
he's got a perfect job there.
Yeah,
perfect job.
He couldn't have a better life. So,
oh, bless him.
But yeah.
Oh dear. Well, it's been great having you back on the show, Lou. It's been great chatting, man.
I will try and get on more frequently, but at least when I haven't been on for a while, I've got a bit more to say.
No, absolutely. Hey, dude, you're welcome anytime.
And thanks to you for all the work you've done keeping the podcast going, and hopefully all the listeners are still enjoying everything. And I hope Fraser as well. Haven't heard or spoken or seen Fraser.
Next one is to try and get Fraser on as well.
Yes.
Maybe one day we'll get another 4-man pod. It is so hard trying to get everyone in one time frame, one unit.
It is, but we'll get there one day.
Absolutely, and it's been great talking to you, Lou, man. And I hope everything goes all right. I hope the dog walking is still as enjoyable each day. I mean, it's a good time to think as well, you know.
You're out and about, breaks your day
That's
up,
it.
And
get the blood going.
Yeah, I enjoy it. So all good. My end, just been very busy, but I'll touch base through the year, and I'm still here. I'm still alive and kicking, man. I still like to consider myself one of the hosts, even though possibly maybe slightly more active than Fraser, but not by much, and certainly way less active than you and Mike. So,
oh man, no, it's fine, dude. Life happens.
Happy New Year to all the listeners, and I hope everyone's good. I was going to say, I was trying to think of something really profound to say then, but I didn't.
Dude, you don't have to. That sounds perfect, man.
Oh, wicked. Thank you.
All right, then, audience. Well, it's been another great episode, if I do say so myself, in my humble opinion. Very humble, very humble. And audience, we shall speak to you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.